and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Nawreen. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Biden says he got sandbagged after he tripped and fell on stage at Air Force graduation. White House wants to engage Russia on nuclear arms control in post-treaty world. Biden to enforce ban on oil gas drilling to protect tribal sites around New Mexico's Chaco. Blinken warns Ukraine ceasefire now would result in Potemkin peace, legitimizing Russian invasion. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi invited to address Congress. Rescuers at site of Iowa building collapse complete search for survivors move on to recovery. Money stored in Venmo and other payment apps could be vulnerable, financial watchdog warns. Boxer Gervonta Davis jailed after moving without permission while on home detention. 8 construction workers injured as building partially collapses near Yale Medical School. Cynthia Will, Grammy-winning lyricist who had hits with husband Barry Mann, dead at 82. Passenger trains derail in India, killing at least 50, trapping many others. US-Taiwan sign trade deal over China's opposition. Macro Awards top US General France's highest honors. Clashes in Senegal kill at least 9. Government bans social media platforms and closes university. Jokic gets triple-double. Nuggets roll past Heat 104-93 in Game 1 of NBA Finals. And Djokovic reaches French Open last 16 as Pegula Rublev exit. You were listening to headlines, now news in detail. President Joe Biden quipped that he got sandbagged Thursday after he tripped and fell, but was uninjured while on a stage at the U.S. Air Force Academy graduation. Biden had been greeting the graduates in Colorado Springs, Colorado, at the front of the stage with salutes and handshakes, and turned to jog back toward his seat when he fell. He was helped up by an Air Force officer as well as 2 members of his U.S. Secret Service detail. Onlookers, including some members of the official delegation on stage, watched in concern before Biden, who at age 80 is the oldest president in U.S. history, returned to his seat to view the end of the ceremony. "I got sandbagged," the president told reporters with a smile when he arrived back at the White House on Thursday evening before pretending to jog into the residence. 2 small black sandbags had been on stage supporting the teleprompter used by Biden and other speakers at the graduation. "He is fine," White House Communications Director Ben Lebels tweeted after the incident. The Biden administration is ready to talk to Russia without conditions about a future nuclear arms control framework, even while taking countermeasures in response to the Kremlin's decision to suspend the last nuclear arms control treaty between the 2 countries, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said Friday. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced in February he was suspending Russia's cooperation with the new START treaty's provisions for nuclear warhead and missile inspections, a move that came as tensions worsened after Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. Russia did say it would respect the treaty's caps on nuclear weapons. Sullivan said at the Arms Control Association's annual meeting said that the United States is committed to adhering to the treaty if Russia also does, and that Washington wants to open a dialogue on a new framework for managing nuclear risks once the treaty expires in February 2026. The Biden administration is implementing a 20-year withdrawal banning oil and gas development outside the boundaries of Chaco Culture National Historical Park in northwestern New Mexico. The action taken by Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland in the nation's number 2 oil-producing state was announced Friday. It is intended to protect cultural and historic resources that tribal communities consider sacred. The order will apply to public lands and federal mineral within a 10-mile radius. President Joe Biden initially proposed this ban in November 2021 at the White House Tribal Nations Summit. The withdrawal applies only to federal public lands, not to entities that are privately, state or tribal owned. Existing leases won't be impacted either. This is a victory for members of New Mexico's congressional delegation who have been pushing to make such a stop on oil and gas development permanent. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Friday the United States won't support peace talks in the war in Ukraine until Kiev holds the upper hand, possibly after a Ukrainian counteroffensive that appears to be taking shape. Blinken said heeding calls from Russia and others, including China, for a ceasefire and negotiations to end the war now would result in a Potemkin peace that wouldn't secure Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity or enhance European security. Potemkin village was a tactic Russia's 18th century government minister Gregory Potemkin used to build brightly painted village fronts to create an illusion of prosperity for Russia's empress. In a speech in Finland, which recently joined NATO and shares a long border with Russia, Blinken repeated the US view that a ceasefire that simply freezes current lines in place and allows Russian President Vladimir Putin to consolidate control over the territory he has seized and rest, rearm and re-attack, that is not a just and lasting peace, allowing Moscow to keep the 1/5 of Ukrainian territory it's occupied would send the wrong message to Russia and to other would-be aggressors around the world, according to Blinken. US congressional leaders have invited Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address a joint meeting of Congress during a visit to Washington later this month as the US looks to deepen its bonds with India, the world's most populous democracy, to counter China's growing influence, even as Modi has faced criticism for eroding India's democratic traditions and human rights. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, and other leaders announced Friday that Modi has been invited to make the address on June 22, stating in a letter that the partnership between our two countries continues to grow, and calling the address an opportunity to share your vision for India's future and speak to the global challenges our countries both face. The US is seeking to forge stronger ties overseas, especially in Asia, to counter China's aggression in the region. Modi's congressional address would come amid a state visit with President Joe Biden, which includes plans to celebrate Modi with high diplomatic honors reserved for close US allies. The White House has said that Modi's visit will be a chance to build on a commitment to a free and secure Indo-Pacific region, as well as develop technology partnerships and tackle climate change. An Iowa task force has completed its search for survivors at the site of a partially collapsed Davenport apartment building without finding three missing people who were feared dead, authorities said Friday. The focus has shifted to shoring up the structure so recovery efforts can begin. The remains of the six-story apartment building were constantly in motion in the first 24 to 36 hours after it collapsed on Sunday, which officials said posed a risk to rescuers who were trying to search for survivors. City officials earlier this week said that Brandon Colvin, Ryan Hitchcock, and Daniel Prine were unaccounted for and had high probability of being home at the time of the collapse. All three have since been listed in the National Database of Missing Persons. The state task force was mobilized and on site to first search for survivors and then secured the structure, Halloran said. He said the search for survivors was completed Thursday evening after electrical equipment connected to the building were controlled. The state search and rescue team, search dogs, and cameras were used in the search Thursday. Officials fear the unstable building will eventually collapse on its own. Adding to the challenge is a giant pile of brick and steel at the base of the building that is helping to hold up the structure but also may contain the remains of people killed in the collapse. Customers of Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App should not store their money with those apps for the long term because the funds might not be safe during a crisis, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau warned Thursday. The alert comes several weeks after the failure of Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, and First Republic Bank, which all experienced bank runs after fearful customers with uninsured deposits pulled their money en masse. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation insures bank accounts up to $250,000, but money stored in Venmo or Cash App or Apple Cash is not being held in a traditional bank account. So if there is an event similar to a bank run with those payment apps, those funds may not be protected. Some of the funds may be eligible for pass-through insurance coverage if customers do certain activities with the apps, the CFPB said. But generally by default, the apps are not covered by deposit insurance. For example, if a customer opened a PayPal savings account, it would have deposit insurance through PayPal's partner bank, Synchrony Bank. But the general PayPal account is not covered by insurance. For Apple Cash, which can be insured through Green Dot Bank, it requires a user to verify their identity to get deposit insurance. A Baltimore judge has ordered professional boxer Gervonta Davis to serve the remainder of his hit-and-run crash sentence behind bars instead of in home detention after he moved to a luxury hotel and then a new home without the judge's permission, the state's attorney's office confirmed Friday. Baltimore Circuit Court Judge Alia Handy sentenced Davis on May 5 to 90 days of home detention after he pleaded guilty to charges stemming from a 2020 hit-and-run crash that left 4 people injured. But Davis' attorney indicated that the address his client gave at sentencing for serving his home detention was too small for the boxer and his security detail. The state's attorney's office spokesperson Emily Whitty said in an email Friday. Davis moved to the Four Seasons Hotel, where a GPS monitoring company monitored him, and then about a week ago, Davis moved into a waterfront high-rise in South Baltimore, Whitty said. Handy hadn't given permission for either move, and as a result, she ordered Davis on Thursday to serve the remainder of his home detention sentence at the city's jail, she said. The order was first reported by the Baltimore Banner. A building under construction near the Yale School of Medicine in New Haven partially collapsed Friday, injuring several people who were pulled from the debris. Officials, however, said there were no fatalities. City firefighters and other authorities responded to Lafayette Street at about 12:30 p.m. 7 people were trapped in the one-story building and were injured, including 2 who were in critical condition, said Mayor Justin Elicker. All were removed from the rubble and taken to the hospital. Fire officials were heard on a radio scanner saying all people who were at the site were accounted for. Multiple ambulances responded to scene. TV news footage showed first responders removing one person from the scene on a stretcher. Lafayette Street is a short distance from Yale New Haven Hospital and the Yale School of Medicine and is home to several medical offices. Cynthia Will, a Grammy-winning lyricist of notable range and endurance, who enjoyed a decades-long partnership with husband Barry Mann and helped write You Have Lost That Loving Feeling on Broadway, Walking in the Rain, and dozens of other hits, has died at age 82. Will's daughter, Dr. Jean Mann, said that the songwriter died Thursday at her home in Beverly Hills, California. Surrounded by her family, Mann, the couple's only child, declined to cite a specific cause of death. Cynthia Will and Barry Mann married in 1961, were one of popular music's most successful teams, part of a remarkable ensemble recruited by impresarios Don Kirshner and Al Nevins and based in Manhattan's Brill Building neighborhood, a few blocks from Times Square. With such hit-making combinations as Carole King and Jerry Goffin and Jeff Barry and Ellie Greenwich, the Brill Building Song Factory turned out many of the biggest singles of the 60s and beyond. Now it's time for global updates. Two passenger trains derailed in India on Friday, killing at least 50 people and trapping hundreds of others inside more than a dozen damaged coaches, officials said. About 400 people were taken to hospitals after the accident, which happened in eastern India, about 220 kilometers southwest of Kolkata, officials said. The cause was under investigation. D.B. Shinde, the top administrator in the Balasore district, said at least 50 people were dead. Nearly 500 police officers and rescue workers with 75 ambulances and buses responded to the accident, said Pradeep Jaina, the top bureaucrat of the Odisha state. Rescuers were attempting to free 200 people feared trapped in the wreckage, said D.B. Shinde, administrator of the state's Balasore district. Amitabh Sharma, a railroad ministry spokesperson, said 10 to 12 coaches of one train derailed and debris from some of the mangled coaches fell onto a nearby track. It was hit by another passenger train coming from the opposite direction. Up to 3 coaches of the second train also derailed. The Press Trust of India news agency said the derailed Coromandel Express was travelling from Howrah in West Bengal state to Chennai, the capital of southern Tamil Nadu state. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said he was distressed by the accident. The United States signed a trade agreement Thursday with Taiwan over opposition from China, which claims the self-ruled island democracy as part of its territory. The two governments say the US-Taiwan initiative on 21st century trade will strengthen commercial relations by improving customs, investment, and other regulation. The measure was signed by employees of the unofficial entities that maintain relations between the United States and Taiwan, a center for high-tech industry. They have no formal diplomatic ties but maintain unofficial relations and have billions of dollars in annual trade. The agreement is intended to strengthen and deepen the economic and trade relationship, the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative said in a statement. The Deputy USTR, Sarah Bianchi, attended the signing. The Chinese government accused Washington of violating agreements on Taiwan's status and demanded the U.S. government stop official contact with the island's elected government. French President Emmanuel Macron awarded France's highest Medal of Honor to the U.S. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley on Friday for his role in coordinating support for Ukraine and for his more than 40-year military career spent in defense of democracy. Miley, who is traveling in France to attend ceremonies at Normandy to mark the 79th anniversary of D-Day, is close to finishing a 4-year term as the top US military officer and plans to retire when his tenure as chairman ends September 30. Macron awarded Miley the Order of Commander of the Legion of Honor at a closed ceremony at the Élysée, the presidential palace. The medal was created by French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte in 1802. It is awarded to about 2,000 citizens and about 300 foreigners each year for defense of French values. Miley called the award an incredible honor from a nation that is our oldest ally, which the US has fought alongside from the Battle of Yorktown through both World Wars to as recently as Afghanistan, when French soldiers served with Miley during his time as a commander in Afghanistan. Clashes between police and supporters of Senegalese opposition leader Ousmane Sonko left 9 people dead, the government said Friday, with authorities issuing a blanket ban on the use of several social media platforms in the aftermath of the violence. The deaths occurred mainly in the capital Dakar and the city of Ziguinchor in the south, where Sonko is mayor, Interior Minister Antoine Felix Abdoulaye Diome said in a statement. Some social media sites used by demonstrators to incite violence, such as Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter, have been suspended, he said. The state of Senegal has taken every measure to guarantee the safety of people and property. We are going to reinforce security everywhere in the country, Diome said. On Friday, the government deployed the military to parts of the city as clashes continued between police and Sonko supporters. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,345.19. The NYSE composite is increased by 314.10 points or 2.09%. Tokyo stock close price is 31,524.22. The Nikkei 225 index is increased by 376.21 points or 1.21%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,230.07. The Shanghai index is increased by 25.43 points or 0.79%. Hong Kong stock close price is 18,949.94. The Hang Seng index is increased by 733.03 points or 4.02%. Bombay stock close price is 62,547.11. The Sensex index is increased by 118.57 points or 0.19%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets were facing some questions going into their first NBA Finals, and their answers came in resounding fashion. No, a week and a half off didn't hurt them, and no, the NBA's biggest stage isn't too big either. Jokic got a triple-double in his Finals debut. Jamal Murray scored 26 points, and the Nuggets had little trouble with the cold shooting Miami Heat on the way to a 104-93 win in Game 1 on Thursday night. I think that's what the beauty of this team is, Murray said. We have so many different weapons and so many different looks. You have got to guard everybody. Free-flowing, and it's a lot of fun. The Heat had been 3-0 in openers so far in these playoffs, all on the road, but Denver is still unbeaten at home. Game 1 winners in the finals go on to win the title nearly 70% of the time. Novak Djokovic battled into the French Open fourth round for a 14th consecutive year on Friday after women's third seed Jessica Pegula and 7th-ranked Andrei Rublev were dumped out of the tournament. Djokovic has made headlines for his comments about Kosovo this week, but his on-court progress has been relatively serene, reaching the second week without dropping a set. The service star was made to work hard by Spanish 29th seed Alessandro Davidovich Fokina, who served for the first set and missed a set point in the second, but won 7-6, 7-6, 6-2 on court Philippe Chatrier. Two-time champion Djokovic, who has also made the French Open quarter-finals in each of the past 13 years, will take on either Polish 13th seed Hubert Hurkacz or Peru's Juan Pablo Varillas in the last 16. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest update. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV, and also in all European countries and Australia available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.